Don't scroll. God says, I have made a very serious decision about you, and you are not ready for what happens next. My child, be still for a moment and let your heart grow quiet. I know the noise around you has been loud lately. The worry, the waiting, the questions that circle back no matter how many times you try to set them down. But right now, in this moment, I am asking you to set all of it aside and simply listen. I have something to say to you, and I have been waiting for the right time to say it. I have seen every season you have walked through. I saw you in the mornings when getting out of bed felt like carrying a weight you couldn't name. I saw you in the nights when sleep wouldn't come because your mind kept turning over the same fears. I saw the smile you wore in front of others and the tiredness you carried when no one was looking. None of it passed by me unnoticed. I was there in the ordinary moments and in the hardest ones, closer than you knew. You have asked, more than once, whether you are on the right path. You have wondered if the waiting means something has gone wrong, or if you have been forgotten in the middle of it. I want to tell you plainly, you have not been forgotten. Waiting is not the same as being overlooked. There's a difference between a door that is closed forever and a door that has simply not opened yet. Much of what has felt like delay has actually been preparation for you and for what is ahead of you. I want you to think back on what you have already come through. Think about the versions of the struggle that once felt impossible and how you are still standing after them. That is not an accident. That is not simply willpower. Something steadier than your own strength has been holding you up on the days you had nothing left to give. You have more evidence of your own resilience than you usually give yourself credit for. I am asking you to remember it now, because you will need it again, not because harder things are coming, but because remembering how far you've come is how you keep walking with a steady heart. Here is what I want you to understand about this season. Not everything that feels heavy right now is meant to stay. Some of what you are carrying was never yours to carry in the first place. Old guilt that was never really deserved, comparisons that were never fair to you, expectations that were handed to you by other people rather than chosen by you. You are allowed to put those things down. Setting them down is not giving up. It is making room. I also want to speak to the fear that tells you good things don't last, that whenever something goes, well, you should brace for it to be taken away. That fear has kept you cautious in moments that deserved your full presence. It has made you hesitate before joy, as if joy were a debt that always comes due. I am asking you to loosen that grip today. Not recklessly, wisdom still matters, but gently. You're allowed to receive good things without immediately looking for the catch. There's a kind of quiet strength that grows in people who have been through difficult seasons and kept their hearts soft anyway. Bitterness would have been an easier road. It asks less of you. But you have kept choosing something harder and better. Patience, honesty with yourself, the willingness to try again. That choice has been shaping you, even in the moments you didn't notice it happening. You are not the same person you were at the start of this season, and that growth was not wasted, even if progress felt slow or invisible for long stretches. I want to say something about the people around you, too. Some relationships in your life have cost you more than they've given back. You already sense which ones. I'm not asking you to cut people off out of anger, but I'm asking you to be honest about what is life-giving and what is depleting. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to choose who has access to your time, your energy, and your trust. That is not selfishness. It is stewardship of the one life you have been given. At the same time, do not let past disappointments convince you to stop opening your heart altogether. Guarding yourself and closing yourself off are not the same thing. There's a way to stay wise without going numb. Some of what is coming toward you, a friendship, an opportunity, a moment of unexpected kindness, will only reach you if you leave a little room for it. Don't seal every door out of fear of being hurt again. I know there are things you have prayed about for a long time, things that haven't shifted yet. And I know the waiting has tested your patience in ways that are hard to explain to anyone who hasn't walked a similar road. I'm not going to promise you a date or a timeline, because that isn't mine to give, and it wouldn't serve you the way you think it would. What I will say is this: the waiting is not empty. Things are forming in it. Your character, your clarity about what you actually want, your readiness for what's next, even on the days when nothing visible seems to be happening. Consider, too, the small mercies you have already received and perhaps moved past too quickly to notice. The person who reached out at the right moment, the unexpected relief on a day that felt unbearable, the conversation that shifted something in you without you fully realizing it at the time. Gratitude for those small things is not naivety. It's a way of staying awake to your own life instead of only measuring it by what's still missing. I also want to speak honestly about fear of the future because I know it visits you sometimes late at night. You wonder if you'll have what it takes when harder moments come. Here is the truth. You rarely find out you have what it takes until you're standing in the middle of needing it. Strength you don't feel today can still be there the day you need it. That has been true for you before, in situations you were certain would break you and didn't. There's no reason to believe that pattern has suddenly stopped holding. So here's what I am asking of you in this season. Be patient with the process, even when it's slower than you'd like. Be honest with yourself about what needs to change, and be gentle with yourself while you change it. Keep your heart soft, even where it would be easier to harden it. Protect your peace without shutting out the good that's trying to reach you. Remember what you've already survived, and let that memory steady you instead of exhaust you. And above all, be kind to yourself. You have likely been your own harshest critic through most of this, replaying mistakes, holding yourself to a standard you'd never demand of anyone else. I'm asking you to ease that grip. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to still be figuring things out. That does not make you behind. It makes you human, and it makes you exactly where you're supposed to be right now, learning what this particular season has to teach you. There is more I want you to hear, because a single word is rarely enough to hold everything a heart needs in a season like this. So stay with me a little longer, my child, and let these words settle rather than rushing past them. Think about the weight you have quietly set down without realizing it, a fear you used to carry every single day that doesn't visit you as often anymore, a wound that once felt raw and now aches only faintly when you remember it. That softening did not happen on its own. It happened through time, through choices you made to keep going, through moments of honesty you had with yourself, even when it would have been easier to look away. Healing rarely announces itself. It tends to arrive quietly in increments so small you almost miss them, until one day you notice you're not who you used to be. I want you to trust that same quiet process now, even in the parts of your life that still feel unfinished. You do not have to have everything figured out today. You do not have to arrive at total clarity before you are allowed to move forward. Some answers only reveal themselves in motion, in the act of trying, of showing up again tomorrow, of taking the next small step even when the whole staircase isn't visible yet. Waiting for full certainty before you act has, more than once, kept you standing still longer than you needed to. You are allowed to move with imperfect information. You are allowed to adjust course as you learn more. I also want to speak to the comparisons that quietly wear at you, the sense that other people seem to have figured out something you haven't, that they are further along, more sure of themselves, more at peace. What you're seeing from the outside is rarely the whole picture. Everyone is carrying something you cannot see, working through their own version of what you're working through now. Your timeline was never meant to match anyone else's. The season you are in has its own shape, its own pace, its own purpose, and it does not need to look like anyone else's story to be a good one. There's a particular kind of tiredness that comes not from doing too much, but from holding too much in. The tears you swallow because it isn't the right moment, the worries you keep to yourself because you don't want to burden anyone else, the disappointment you smile through because that's what's expected of you. I want you to know that you don't have to carry all of that alone. Strength is not the absence of needing help. Consider also the dreams you set aside somewhere along the way, not because you stopped wanting them, but because life got loud or disappointing or simply too full to make room for them. I want to gently ask you, are you certain those dreams are gone, or did you just stop tending to them for a while? Some things that feel dead are only dormant. They can come back to life with far less effort than you'd expect if you're willing to give them a little attention again. You don't have to rebuild everything at once. Sometimes it starts with a single small step back towards something you used to love. I know, too, that there are moments you look back on with regret. Words you wish you hadn't said. Chances you wish you had taken. Versions of yourself you wince to remember. I'm not asking you to pretend those moments didn't happen or that they didn't matter. I'm asking you to stop punishing the person you are today for choices made by a person who knew less than you know now. Growth means you see things differently in hindsight. That's what growth is for. It is not evidence that you were foolish. It is evidence that you have learned. As you move forward, I want you to hold on to a particular kind of hope. Not the naive kind that expects everything to be easy, but the steadier kind that simply trusts you will be able to handle whatever comes, one way or another. That hope doesn't need proof in advance. It's built on the same foundation as everything else I've said to you tonight. You have made it through hard seasons before. You have grown in ways you don't always give yourself credit for, and you're not facing whatever is next without any resources at all. You have more than you think. Let me speak plainly about rest, because I don't think you give yourself enough of it. Rest is not something you have to earn by first proving how hard you've worked. It is not a reward reserved for after everything is finished, because things are rarely ever fully finished. Rest is something you are allowed simply because you are a person, not a machine built to produce without pause. Taking a slow evening, saying no to something that would stretch you too thin, sitting quietly without accomplishing anything. None of that is wasted time. It is part of how a person stays whole enough to keep going. I also want to remind you that not every closed door in your life was a punishment. Some doors close because what was behind them would have cost you more than it ever would have given. It's hard to see that in the moment, especially when the closing hurts. But looking back at your own life, you can probably already name at least one door that closing turned out, eventually, to be a kindness rather than a loss. Trust that some of what feels like loss right now may look different from where you'll be standing later. And when you feel uncertain about who you even are anymore, after everything you've been through, after all the ways life has asked you to adapt and bend and rebuild, know that the core of you, the part that keeps choosing to care, to try, to hope even when it would be easier not to, that part has not gone anywhere. Circumstances change people at the edges. They rarely touch what's actually solid at the center. You are still you, even in the middle of everything that's shifted. So here's what I would ask of you as you carry these words forward. Be patient with yourself the way you would be patient with someone you love. Give the same grace to your own mistakes that you would give freely to a friend. Let yourself rest without guilt. Let yourself hope without needing proof first. Let yourself reach for the dreams you quietly set aside, even just a little, even just today. And remember, on the hardest days, that you have never yet faced a season that didn't eventually pass, didn't eventually teach you something, didn't eventually leave you a little more capable than you were before it started. One more thing before I let these words rest with you. I want you to notice how often you carry hope for other people without hesitation, but hold none in reserve for yourself. You believe your friend will find their way through their struggle. You believe things will work out for someone you love, even when their situation looks uncertain. You extend patience and belief to nearly everyone around you. I am asking you tonight to turn just a little of that same belief inward. You deserve the same grace you so easily give away. You deserve to be believed in by the person who knows you best, yourself. There will be ordinary days ahead, not dramatic ones, just ordinary. A quiet Tuesday, a slow weekend morning, a walk where nothing in particular happens. I want you to notice those days rather than only living for the significant ones. Much of a good life is made of small, unremarkable moments strung together. A warm meal, a text from someone who cares, a task finished and set aside, a moment of quiet before sleep. Don't wait for something extraordinary to happen before you allow yourself to feel content. Contentment is available in the ordinary if you let yourself notice it. And when doubt returns, because it will, because doubt is a frequent visitor to anyone who is paying attention to their own life, don't treat its return as proof that nothing has changed. Doubt coming back doesn't erase the progress you've made. It just means you're still human, still growing, still in process. Let it pass through without unpacking its bags. You don't have to argue with every fear that shows up. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to keep going anyway. Take a slow breath now. Let your shoulders drop from wherever they've been sitting up near your ears. Whatever tomorrow holds, you don't have to solve it tonight. Tonight, it is enough to rest, to be honest about how you're really doing, and to trust that showing up again tomorrow, imperfectly, tiredly, but still showing up, is more than enough. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are exactly in the middle of your own becoming, and that is a good place to be. God says, stay faithful, stay patient, and keep walking with me, because my decision concerning your life is already in motion.